Alrighty, let's begin. Hello everyone, my name is James Ryan and welcome to the stream. So if I am to have done this correctly, I should currently be streaming on both YouTube and Twitch, and we are ready to go. So as you can tell by the title of the stream, today we will in fact, hopefully, probably, it will in fact, hopefully, probably, just give me a second. Today we will in fact actually be coding bouncy balls. So thing is, last time I did this, it was the first time and I was still a little nervous and I kind of didn't really want to do it in the end. And I kind of changed my mind and I kind of chickened out, to be honest. And to be honest, afterwards, after the stream, for the next couple of days, I was thinking, that didn't really do anything for me. I didn't really feel right. Didn't really feel good. And I was thinking I'm gonna have to go back to my psychologist that I'm seeing soon and be like, my new psychologist and be like, oh, I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do anymore. But anyway, turns out after a couple of days, I was like, actually, that wasn't so bad. I think I can do it again. I'd like to do it again. Let's do it again. Let's try and get things done. So yeah, so today I'm here. Sorry if I'm itching myself so much. I mean, if I'm gonna be just talking, I might as well put myself on the full screen camera. So yeah, hello, this is me. My name is James. And yeah, anyway, I figured, why not give it a shot? So I'm gonna try and do a couple things. I'm gonna try and get a couple things out of the way, just from, I'm going to try and do two things, or two things. I'm going to try and do a couple. Sorry, just give me a second. All right, first things first, I want to start off by doing the bouncy balls, okay? Then after that, I want to relax. First of all, I want to do the bouncy balls. Second of all, I want to try and do some geodesics, do a geodesics thing in processing. Basically, I want to see if I can code a thing that shows what a straight line looks like on a map, as opposed to on a map of longitude versus latitude, as opposed to actually going around because a straight line on a sphere on a map isn't going to necessarily look like a straight line unless it's directly going east to west, west east, east west along the unless it's directly going, unless it's directly heading across lines of latitude, it's not gonna look, it's not gonna look straight because lines of longitude curve on a map. Well, actually, no, there is one other location where it would look like a straight line. If it was exactly on the 0 degrees meridian or exactly in the center of the map, going north south or south north, then it would also look right. Anyway, point is, I want to try and do that. At first, I want to try and experiment with two different approaches. At first, I'm gonna I should tell you about this later. Anyway, point is, oh my god, so much, so stressful. Just give me a sec. Just give me a sec. Jesus Christ. Okay, let's start again. I want to get a couple things done. First, I want to do the bouncy ball simulation. Second, I want to do the geodesics thing. Third, I want to try and relax and play some. Third, I want to try and play some Slime Rancher. And fourth, I want to try and play some Mega Man. And by Mega Man, I mean specifically Mega Man Battle Network 3 Blue Edition for the Game Boy Advanced, although I will be playing it with an emulator. It's quite an old game. I don't think anyone will be too upset about that. And For what it's worth, I already played it a long time ago on emulator as a kid, so yeah, what you gonna do? Well, anyway. So without further ado, let's try and get this started. Ideally, ideally my idea is I want to try and do these often enough, or I want to try and get through enough of these that it no longer feels stressful and weird and scary and becomes something that I hopefully look forward to rather than something I'm pushing myself to do. Because the truth is, I do want to do this, and I really, honestly, I wanted to make YouTube videos, but it's just so stressful, and I always record them, and then I give a long rambling speech like this because I don't want to talk too much, but I feel like I should, like, give context, give background information, explain things to people, and I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, I get too stressed, I get too nervous, and I decide, oh, do it later, I won't do it now, I'll do it later, right? And then I just never end up uploading it. I realized the last time I tried to do recordings like this, record a video, right? Or not, well, not counting the stream I did a couple days ago. The last time I tried recording like videos or trying to do a project or a let's play or something was apparently about a year ago. I was trying to do apparently about a year ago, and I recorded a bunch of times. You wouldn't believe how many times I went over the intro, and I actually went through the game twice. I actually think I did it two separate, distinct times. I would do it like months apart. I'm not sure, and both times I was like, okay, I can do it now. But then both times I was like, no, I can't. I don't know. I'm not ready. So the idea behind doing the live stream is, well, I don't have to worry about editing, and it's more of a commitment. Like it's easier. It's 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 the same level of it's just as difficult to it's just as easy to not upload a video to YouTube as it is to not remove a live stream from YouTube, right? So if you have if you're indecisive, if you have decision paralysis and you prefer to just do nothing, then streaming changes the default to having it on the internet as opposed to not having it on the internet, right? Just like like in yeah, I think that's it. I'm so nervous. I'm so sorry. I was better at this last time, honestly. I feel like I was better like a couple days ago, but you know what? It's fine. Enough rambling. I feel like I've gotten the general gist of things, but the point is, eventually, I want to become comfortable enough with this that it no longer stresses me out, and I can start thinking about things more clearly, coming up with better ideas, deciding, and maybe, and either I'll, and I want to be able to. I can't. Sorry, there was a noise. Just give me a second. I have obsessive compulsive disorder. I'm so sorry. All right, let's start again. Ideally, the idea is that I do this enough times that I get comfortable with it, and I can just start being like, yeah, let's do this, come on. Oh, I feel like doing this today. All right, let's do it. Let's stream, whatever, Either that or maybe I get to the point where I'm comfortable, making a YouTube video or something. So maybe we'll see. Either, maybe because like originally, because the idea was I wanted to make a bunch of YouTube videos where I did the projects, right? The idea being like, look, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know, but I've always wanted to, whatever. I've always wanted to make. I've got a bunch of projects that I haven't done. I didn't do them because I wanted to share them with people when I did them, but I just never got around to it because I couldn't figure out how to do it. I couldn't figure out a good way to do it. I couldn't figure out how to do it properly. So I'm like, screw it. Let's just do a project a day, and I'll make a video about it, right? But or I have a bunch of projects I wanted to do. I've always wanted to make a YouTube channel. Let's try and make it work. You're right. And same idea. The idea was to do those videos until I got comfortable enough to start making better videos or more thought out videos. The problem is I just had so many ideas, right? That I didn't really know how to structure it. And, you know, it would have been one thing to make. Obviously you can make one video per idea, like you can, but it's difficult, right? And especially back then I was learning so much, I really wanted to organize it and I really wanted it to be somewhat organized. I really wanted it to be somewhat tutorial oriented or educational rather than purely entertaining. I guess it's not so much about the difference between being educational versus entertaining because it's more so about like how well produced, how tutorial like it was, I guess. Is it a more like pre-done edited video, or is it more like follow along with me? Here's what I'm doing right now. Maybe less polished, more live stream like, so to speak, even though it would be pre-recorded, right? But more like follow along with me. I'm not sure how to. I'm not sure. You know what I mean? Just give me a second. Give me a second. I've gotten stressed out. Give me a sec. I'll be right back. Just give me a second. I'm going to mute All right. All right. Should be back. All right. Let's begin. Sorry about that. Problem is, I got stressed out. I needed to do some OCD to relax myself, and then obviously because I wasn't talking, I was quiet. And since I was quiet, I could hear the train. And since I could hear the train, then that started freaking beeping its horn, and that started stressing me out and screwing me over. You know, it's like I don't understand why the trains here are so loud and beep so freaking often. Like, sure, I know that it's for safety, but sorry, just give me a second. Okay, sorry about all that. I'm ready now. I muted myself for a bit. I didn't put it on the pause screen, but anyway. All right, I'm ready to go. Anyway, point being is train really freaking annoying. Don't know why it's so loud. Don't know why it does it so often. I understand that it has to warn people who might be crossing the road, might be unaware. Maybe they're hearing impaired. Maybe they got headphones on. Who knows? But it just feels a bit excessive. And I'm not even the only one. Like, I didn't even search for it. I just randomly came across a YouTube video on my home screen, my homepage, that was like, why are Melbourne's trains so loud, or something like that, It's like, yeah, why are they so loud, man? I mean, look, obviously it's not a problem for everyone. It didn't used to be a problem for me. For whatever reason, my OCD, I feel like I have misophonia of some kind now, or something, or at least you could describe it like that. I don't know if I'm not sure if it really is. I don't know if it technically would count as actual misophonia, but definitely don't like it. Definitely stresses me out. Definitely gives me OCD. Definitely makes me feel really bad and really weird, and makes me want to do a bunch of weird rituals and shit, to weird movements and shit, and scratching and self censor and censor and activate my own senses in a weird way to try and get rid of that weird feeling and make me feel better and get back to normal. Anyway, point being is, you know, even during the old back in the day, Jesus Christ, sorry, there was another annoying noise. Oh, this sucks so much. I'm not talking enough. If I'm talking enough, it'll block out the noise and then I won't hear it. I won't get stressed. If I'm playing a game, it's usually not an issue because the game music will be loud enough to block most of the noises. Maybe I'll have to play myself music or something while I stream, but ideally I don't really want to be doing something like that. I feel like I should be able to just stream normally and deal with noises, like I'm supposed to get these I was supposed to, like, a long time ago, get these like special earplug things, but I never got around to getting them, and I forgot the brand name, I forgot what they're called, and I forgot the website, and I should look them up, but I don't know, maybe I'll talk about it. Anyway, the point is that even back in the day when I was doing these recordings, when I was doing these videos, and I had the idea for some of these projects, the problem was always I couldn't figure out how to properly differentiate, like, just making a video versus trying to talk about how I felt about it, and even the fact, like, what would happen is I'd make a video, or I'd try to make a video, or I'd make something a while ago and then never get around to making it, or I'd try to make something once and then not end up finishing and then try to redo it again later, and then I would want to talk about the fact that I had tried to do this before, just like I'm doing now, honestly. And the problem was I never could do that because I wanted my videos to be professional, right? I wanted them to be professional, like, or like I wanted them to like talk about the subject. Like it's not about me, it's about the video, it's about the topic. But like the problem is like I just couldn't. It's very difficult. It was very difficult for me to like compartmentalize all that stuff because I wanted to use it as an outlet. It wasn't just but I couldn't figure out it. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out how to square the circle. Also, time constraints and all that other stuff. Problems with planning, procrastination. Like I've been trying to do this second stream now for a couple days, and it's been stressing the shit out of me. I've been putting it off so long, waiting for the right moment. Finally, I feel like I've gotten it all down pat, and I've started the stream, and I'm still talking about stuff, but I just feel like I got to get it all out. Like there's just so much to get out because I think like the thing I've come to because I think the thing is I'm just gonna have to talk a bit about stuff at the beginning of these streams for the for the beginning of things because like I've just got so much, and then once I sort of get sorry, someone is walking around. Yeah, give me a second. All right, back to basics. I mean, back to this. What I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is that maybe back then, if I had gone ahead and just tried to do the videos, even if it would have annoyed some people that I was talking about myself and everything, maybe I could have at least gotten started making these videos and talking about these projects and doing it on the regular, and I could have built up from there and eventually, get to the point where I felt well good enough where I felt like okay, the audience, anyone who's been watching from the beginning, right, is now caught up enough that I no longer feel the need to elaborate or to talk about backs or to give context, right? That's the thing, right? I feel like it's important to give context, like the full context to like what this is, why I'm doing it, etc., etc. But it's difficult, it's stressful because I know some people don't like that. I know some people don't care, and at the end of the day, I'm trying to teach someone, so it's difficult to sort of square that circle, But um, that's a long time. That was a long time ago. That was back. Sorry, just give me a second. Give me a sec. Almost done. Give me a second. Okay, sorry about all that. Yeah, I maybe I shouldn't have talked about that. Maybe I didn't have to talk about that, right? I knew it was maybe I shouldn't have talked about that because I knew it was going to stress me out, right? I knew it was going to give me OCD. I knew it was going to make me like freak out a bit, but I felt like it was a good. I felt like I should tell. I feel like I should just get it out there, right? But the point is that like Okay, Jesus Christ. I'll get through this. I'll get through this. I'll get through this. All right. The point is that that fucking train. Sorry. You know what the thing that sucks about being stuck in a rut for like 6 years, or being depressed, or having anxiety, or OCD and shit, is just not being able to control. Like it's like you just feel cursed. You feel like no matter what you do, you're something's gonna screw you over, and the way things end up happening is it ends up being like it shouldn't screw you over, right? Because it wouldn't anyone else, but it's just so stressful that like you're like, fuck, man, I can't do this today. Or like man, I keep getting stressed out. I keep things keep trying interrupting me. Like maybe I should take this as a message. Not today. Maybe not to do, not do it. I don't know what to do. And I believe in psychology they would call it the locus of control, right? Is the locus of control within yourself or outside of yourself? And it's felt outside of me for so long. I don't know if it's ever felt like truly 100% inside of me, but definitely when I was a kid, I definitely felt like I had much more control. And then just yeah, I just feel like I have no fucking clue, man. Just give me a second. I mean, it's just you know, like when whatever the whenever when ah, obviously it makes it very hard to do anything like difficult to do whenever if a freaking if a single when a single train horn can disrupt your entire thought process and everything, it doesn't speak well to like your level of ability to control of stuff. And and it almost becomes a bit it gets in your head, and it's like not only is it stressful in and of itself because of all the shit that I don't want to get into it, but it's almost mocking. It's almost like every single train horn is a reminder of the fact that I can't deal with this shit and don't know how to do it, and it sucks because I never used to have an issue with it. It's relatively new. I mean, it's been a couple of years now, but it wasn't always like this. It wasn't even like this when I first got depressed or anxious. It was like about after a year or so, these things started happening. But anyway, let me start again. I got a bit sidetracked there because of the freaking train. But anyway, my point overall was that like, yes, I was like, ideally. Sorry, just give me a second. There's so much. Yeah, ideally, I do enough of these, like, I do enough of these streams that, like, I get enough context out that I don't have to rehash this every time, right? Like, because at the moment, this is my first stream, and I know probably no one's watching. I can't actually see the view count right now. I guess I could switch to the other view to look at the view count, but I don't really see anyone, so, why does this always look like it's so, outdated? Like, it's only showing 840. I don't really get it. Just to show you what I'm talking about, I meant this here, this stream. Like, why is it showing me on opening up processing and stuff? Like, what the heck? That was so long ago, wasn't it? Really confusing. Don't quite get it, but you know, it is what it is. Anyway, back to camera, back to camera mode. Anyway, point being is, so yeah, eventually, for the top, so yeah. Um, I know it might be annoying listening to all this, just what am I going on about? But like, point is, the first couple of streams or so, couple of videos, whatever you want, whatever, you might. Sorry, just give me that. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I know I've said this. I know I've said the point is so many times by now, but bear with me, please. We're almost done. We're almost done. The point is that while this might be a bit annoying at first, while this might be a bit, while this might, the point is, well, this is so frustrating. The point, for fuck's sakes, the point is what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is the point for the first couple of. I know it might be a bit annoying, but ideally, the idea is so for the first couple of streams, I might need to talk a bit more. The idea is eventually, after a couple of streams, you'll have enough context where I won't feel the need to say all this again, I'm real because this is the first stream. This is the first time I'm going to be talking to any of you. Even if no one's watching now, maybe someone will come back and watch these videos. Who knows, right? So I'm giving you all the context now, so later on I won't feel the need to do so, and I'll feel more comfortable. Also, as I feel more comfortable, I'll have less OCD, so I'll have less of those pauses and weird moments. And honestly, and I even gave this exact same speech back when I originally tried to do this by pre-recording them. Although I wasn't trying to code, I was trying to play Mega Man, which is the reason why I'm going to try and do that later on, right? But basically, yeah, I ended up giving the same speech talking about, oh, I know I'm talking a lot, but eventually I won't. It's just going to be these first couple of videos or so, and then eventually I won't have to anymore, right? That was the idea. That was the idea even back then. And even back then, OCD stressed me out, although I think I tried to deal with that by I think the idea was to edit them out, and in order to mark the editing, I would stop and start the video when I had too much OCD, and so that I would remember to remove OCD, like remove it from the start and end of the clips to try and cut it out. and like shorten it down. It would have been so much editing. Well, not that much honestly, because I would have marked it for myself, but still, it's just something I remember. Sorry, just give me a sec. All right, almost done. Give me a sec. We're almost done, and we're ready to move on to coding soon. All right, we're almost. All right, we're almost ready to go. Now since we haven't actually. Oh, it's caught up with me now. Not really sure. Oh, someone said hi. Wait, really? When did this happen? Like a minute ago? Hang on, I'm not sure how this actually works. I don't know how to get to the comments. I don't know how to reply. Hang on, give me a second. Give me a second. This is my first time. Oh my gosh. I was just about to like stop the stream and restart it with a different title, but okay. Hello. Maybe I won't restart the stream then. Maybe I'll just keep it with this title, even though I'm spent the first 30 minutes just talking about stuff. Oh, that's okay. What's your native language? Well, I've just started, but ideally I want to, well, I'll figure it out, but ideally it's either going to be teaching people like how to code things or like just coding things, like simulations or maybe games, I don't know, whatever I feel like. And maybe also playing games occasionally too, you know, depending on what people like or what I feel like, I guess. Is that too fast? I don't know. Um, yeah, like programming. Like, I can play a game instead if you want. I was going to play a game later anyway. Okay. Okay, sure. Well, how would you like to do a bouncy ball? Learn about start by coding some bouncy balls. I'll show you what it'll look like, because eventually I want to do these from scratch. The idea is that I'll just come up with the idea and then do it. But this is one that I actually did a couple weeks ago, and I actually came up with the idea many years ago. So I'll just be recreating it. But um, just give me a second. So this is a bouncy ball simulation. Actually, it's also air molecules. It could also be that. Um, you can change the. You can. Oh my gosh, this is. Hang on. What's going on here? Just give me a second. All right. It's how long? It's only 86 or so lines of code, and like 8 of those are it's in this thing called processing. It's basically Java. It's basically a wrapper for Java. So it's not. It's a little outdated. Processing 3, or this is 3.5. But you can also get the newest version, P5. Let me see. You go to processing.net. I know it's not that popular, or it's not maybe not that well known, but like uh well, it's not that unknown. Um Let me think about it. I like it. I think it's good for beginners. I think it's good for learning programming. It's very visual. It makes it really easy to draw things to the screen. It has a 2D and a 3D mode. So here, to draw circles on the screen, I'm literally just writing the word circle, and that's all I'm doing. It's that easy to draw. Maybe I should do a beginning processing. Well, you can um, you can learn all that. What's the word? I mean, I guess you'll learn while I'm doing the simulation, while I'm doing it up, because I was going to teach some basics anyway, because I wasn't going to start with object oriented. I was going to start with, what's the word? Sorry, 4 gigabytes of RAM is probably plenty. Like, there's no way this is going to use up that much. I think a typical Java program probably takes up like, I don't know. Honestly, I'm not really sure. I don't think it takes up that much RAM. I guess I can always just check the yeah, your text is a little delayed, so I'm only just now getting your reply to what I said way earlier about Java. So just however long ago you typed I know a few things about Java. Yeah. So it'd be I know a few things about Java. Sorry, I don't shouldn't correct. I can correct the language, but only if you want me to. If you think it, if you don't want me to do that, that's fine too. Whatever makes you more comfortable, right? And if you're my only viewer at the moment, I might as well. Oh my gosh, this is so good. I don't know. I feel like just having a single viewer makes everything so much better. Oh, JavaScript. JavaScript quite different. JavaScript quite different. Um, Honestly, JavaScript is so last time I used JavaScript was so long ago when I was just first learning coding, and I wanted to try and make a website. And then I realized that you could make a good website in Dreamweaver. And I was like, I didn't care anymore because I wanted to code it myself from scratch. But all I could do, I knew that, like, yeah. So it turns out I probably didn't care that much about coding websites, I think is really the takeaway from that. Um, yeah, but I've looked recently, I've watched some videos, and JavaScript looks like it's got a couple of weird quirks. But the basics are not that uh, different. It's all programming in the end. If you Once you know one programming language, it's Java's not hard. I would say it's just old. It has its own quirks. It's quite verbose. You have to type all you it's not like Python where you just write what a equals 5 and it just works. You would have to write like int a equals 5, right? If it's an integer, or float a equals 5 if you want it to be a floating point. But that's not too different from other programming languages. It's just means it's statically typed, not dynamically typed like JavaScript or Python. But you'll get used to it, I think. Like for me, it's the other way around. Like when I use Python, I have to remind myself, okay, I don't need to tell Python that this is a string. I don't need to tell Python that this is a what type. And it actually can be a bit frustrating because sometimes I want to clarify, and I'm not sure what type of variable Python thinks it is. So, but I think you can use a thing called a type hint if you really need to in Python. So anyway, what was I saying? I was trying to look for the process. Project 1. Let's see if I can find Project 1. I have no clue. Oh no, it's called Java, right? It would be Java. So Java platform binary. So it's using about 130 megabytes. So not that much. I think with 4 gigabytes of RAM, you'll be absolutely fine. It's using about 1/400th of the RAM you have. So I think you'll be fine. Alrighty. Well, in that case, let's get started then. So I can't um I can't read the chat the entire time, but I'll check back occasionally. If you're ready to start, I'll get the first stream project, Project 1, stream projects. Okay. Still loading. Shouldn't take that long to load processing, honestly. But I guess because I'm streaming. All right, so I've drawn a little bit, but it's fine. So processing's pretty simple. It's very similar to coding for Arduino, like the microcontrollers. I actually think that Arduino is based off it because the GUI, the GUI, looks exactly the same. But if that doesn't mean anything to you, that doesn't matter. The point is, it's very simple. You have two methods, your setup methods, so you will type void setup, left bracket, right bracket, left curly bracket, right curly bracket, and void draw. The setup method or function gets called once at the beginning of the program, and the draw method gets called again and again and again. So if I just press run now, what I'll get is this sort of blank box, and that's because I haven't really given it enough proper detail about what I want it to do. So the first thing that you want to do in any processing project is give it a size. So you would run something like size 400, 400, and that will give the window a size of 400 by 400, and it will let you drag it around, which is good because you know. And so that's the first thing. And also another thing I like to do is give it a background. Choose a background color. I like to give it a white background. So I give it value 255, which is full white. If you do 0, that will be black. If you do if you use hex values, you can also get other colors. So hash FF0000 will be red. And then, the middle two numbers are green and the right two numbers are blue. So it's pretty standard stuff, and you can always go to a website to pick a hex color. If you want, you can always go to a color picker website, pick a color, and it'll tell you the hex value of that color. So if you can't, figure it out in your head or just guess, then that will also work. Usually I don't actually put this in setup. Usually I put it in draw because I want to redraw the background at the start of each frame. because otherwise there won't be, because otherwise when I draw new objects to the screen, they'll be drawn on top of the previous frame's objects, and you don't want that. So I'm using it as a way to refresh the screen. Okay, so how do I know the color is, it's based on hexadecimal. So for example, every color goes from, it goes from 0 to 2, it goes from, you know what, maybe I'll make this bigger. I'm not sure if you want it to be a bit bigger, but I can make it bigger. Just give me a second. Preferences, font size, we'll bring it to 24. Maybe that'll make things easier to see. So each variable goes from 0 to 255. So if I type in a number from between them, like 125, that will give me a gray. That will give me the color gray. And so 0 is complete darkness, 255 is black, all the colors. Or, sorry, 0 is black, complete darkness, and 255 is complete white, all the colors, right? But that's only if you type in a single number. Otherwise, you'll want to type in multiple. So one way of doing that is you can write color in brackets, and then you can give it 3 different colors. So I can do 255 means, and then 0 and 0. So the first color is red, the next color is green, and the second color is green, and the third color is blue. So 255 means 100% red, 0, and then 0% green, 0% blue. So if I do this, it should give me a red screen, right? If I ask for 255 blue, then I'll get, green is the middle, I'll get green. And if I ask for 255 blue, then I'll get full blue. So it goes from 0 to 255 because that's 256 different values, which is a power of 2. And that's how the computer will do it in a, I believe I'm not really sure. I guess it's 16 times 3. I'm not really sure how many bits colors that is, but that's, and if I want to mix colors, I can mix the two. So if I mix red and green, this is additive color, by the way, not subtractive. So it doesn't quite work like paint. It works based on light colors. So if I shine 2 torches at a wall, this is the color that would show up. If I had a red torch and a green torch, and I put them all on the and I put them on the wall, this is the color that would show up. So I guess additive color. Yeah, got to spell it with a U because I'm Australian. So yeah, so it uses the one on the left, additive color. So red plus green will give yellow, red plus blue will give magenta, or sort of a pinkish color, and green plus blue will give cyan, or a light blue. So this one has the color names: red, yellow, green, cyan, magenta, yellow, and of course white and black. Black with no color, white with every color. Alrighty. And then to get the way I did it before was just a shortcut where FF is, let's see, if I say 255 in hexadecimal, that is FF. So 0xFF, 0x is just how they designate. It's just how they say that it's a hexadecimal number, not a decimal number. So that's pretty much all there is to it. So writing so instead of writing 255, I can write hash FFFF00. And the hash is just doing the same thing as this 0x. It means it's a hexadecimal number. Some languages will use a hash symbol or a pound sign or a hashtag or whatever you call it. I'm Australian and I'm not using Twitter right now, so I'm going to call it a hash or a hash sign. Yeah. Can I make the face cam smaller? Sure. Absolutely. I mean, if you don't even want to see it at all, I could do that too. Shit, how do I do this? All right, there we go. All right, is that better? I'm gonna assume. Why is this so far behind? You clearly have already gotten past this part. I don't know why it's showing this. That's so funny. I don't really understand the streaming thing, why it shows so far behind on my end. But I guess because the server's too far away. I'm not really sure. Anyway, so is it it was this cam covering up the Google and stuff. I see. I just typed in 255 to hexadecimal into Google, and it tells me that 255 is the same as. Oh my gosh, how do I look at it at the same time? I think it showed. All right. So yeah, it just tells me 255 is the same as FF in hexadecimal. The 0x is just to show that it's hexadecimal. In processing, we're going to use a hash symbol instead. That's pretty much all there is to the color. If you want to pick a color, you can always just go do like a hexadecimal color picker. Oh, look, Google even has one already. So I can just pick a color. Let's get this this green here. I'll copy and then I'll paste it in here, and we have the exact same color. So there you have it. That's how you get colors. You can also get it from Photoshop, probably, or any most programs will have a way of picking a color from an image and giving you the hex value so that you can copy it. So if you don't want to remember how it works, you can just go find a color picker or use Photoshop and use that color, and that's fine too. All right, so I'm gonna have a white background, so I'm just gonna write 255, and the next thing is to draw a circle. So I'm going to draw a circle to the screen, and I'm going to draw it in the center. So I can do 200, 200 is the X and Y coordinates. And I also need to give it a radius. So I'm going to give it a radius of 20. I'll make it quite big. and that should draw a circle to the screen. All right, so there is a circle on the screen, but it's quite small and it's not filled in. So first thing I'll do is I'll actually increase the size of this to be bigger. Okay, that's too big, too big. Maybe 800 by 800. And I'll give the circle a size of 40 for the time being, and I'll change it later if I need to. And the other thing I want to do is I want to fill it in. So I'll put this in the setup, but you can also put it in the draw function if you want to change colors. Actually, no, I'll probably change colors later. So for the time being, I'll put in the draw function, and I'm going to say fill 0, which means I want any shapes I draw from now on to be black, basically. So now it's going to give me a black circle. And if I use, if I use this color instead, then it will look like that. It does have an outline though, so I actually want to get rid of that outline, and I don't know how to do that. I forgot. Is it no outline? No fill? Not no fill, it's like no line. I can't actually remember. So we'll just leave that alone for the time being. It's not too important. Why can't I type red? I think you might be able to. I'm not sure. Color red. Does that work? What about with a? Does that work? All right. Let's see. Processing colors. You can learn a lot from the website processing.org. I mean, this is just how colors work behind the scenes. If you're coding in JavaScript, you have access to other colors because they are built into HTML or CSS, I think. So they have like certain colors that are predefined. Oh, I guess there's a color tool in processing. So really the only difference is that it's not that they made it harder, it's just that they didn't make it easier. This is how it really is, and JavaScript just makes things a bit easier, or HTML does, I think. Let me see how to do this. Tools, color selector. There you go. So there, just tools, color selector, pick a color, copy the color. Don't even have to go to Google. That'll work. Yeah, it's just how it's just it's just that's computer science for you. The more it starts simple, the more you get into it, the more complicated things. But as long as you take it at your own pace, and don't be afraid to try new things, you'll build up more skills. And the more skills you have, the more confident you will be when it comes to taking on future projects. So I started by following tutorials. I followed tutorial a long time ago on a website called Congregate. I think it still exists, but they had a tutorial on how to make a Flash game, and now Flash doesn't even exist anymore. So I don't know. Anyway, so that's a circle, but at the moment we just have a single circle in the middle of the screen. That's not that interesting. We would preferably like to move it around. So we're going to add some variables. At the moment, they're going to be global variables, but eventually I'm going to move them into an object. But just to get things started, we'll create an x variable and a y variable. Int x, int y, and I can initialize them here, or I can just declare the variable here and then initialize it in the setup function. So I'm going to start them off at x equals 200, y equals 200. I can even have the radius up here. I'm actually going to keep that up there because I want to be able to change that at a whim. And I'm not going to move that to the objects, not for the time being at least. So actually I might as well, I might as well put everything all in one place. It'll be easier. X equals 200, y equals 200. And we also want to give the ball a velocity, right? So let's call it val x for x velocity. I could also type x val. I'm not really sure. They say that one of the hardest things in computer science is naming variables. It's a joke, obviously, but there is an element of truth to it. It can sometimes be difficult to pick a good variable name. But I will do x val for x velocity. Let's say that's 5. Let's do y velocity equals 6. And we'll change the circle to be at the x and y location. So now if we run it, it should still be at 200, 200. But the trick is now we're going to change the x and y velocity, the x and y variables, each frame according to the velocity. So we're going to say x plus equals x velocity, y plus equals y velocity, and that will have it flying off the screen. There we go. So far, pretty simple, standard stuff. Now, I said I was going to do it like this, but honestly, I think it would be better to put it into an object straight away. So one thing I will change is I'm actually going to make these floats, because it turns out later on it's going to be much better to have these as floating point numbers. And floating point basically just means it can have a decimal point. It's a bit more complicated behind the scenes. You can look up IEEE or IEEE floating point standard if you really want to know. But it's really just a bunch of complicated stuff that you don't really need to know about unless you're super interested. So behind the scenes, this is what it actually looks like. It's a bunch of bits, and it's called floating point because the decimal point changes. It doesn't really matter. The point is they're not exact decimal numbers. They only have a certain amount of accuracy. They're more accurate for smaller numbers and larger numbers. The larger your number is, the less accurate it is. It sacrifices some accuracy so that it can have a larger range of values. So we'll press play again, and that'll do that. Okay, so plus equals is a shorthand. So we can write x equals x plus x val. And what this will do is every time, let's look at the code so far. First thing it does is it sets up some variables. X is 200, Y is 200, X val is 5, Y val is 6, and radius is 40. Then it runs the setup function. So technically it doesn't actually run this. This is sort of like preparation. The first thing it runs is this to set it up. Then it runs the draw function. So the first thing it's going to do is change the background to be white. Then it's going to set the fill color to black. Then it's going to draw a circle at the current X and Y location with the radius that we gave it earlier. And the next thing it's going to do is take the current is set the X variable equal to itself plus X velocity. So since X is 200 and X val is 5, it's going to change it from 200 to 205. And then in the next frame, it's going to change to 210 and then 215 and so on. So if I press play, it's going to do that, right? It's going to go off the screen. So as a shorthand, instead of writing X equals X plus something, we just write X plus equals. And this is the exact same thing. It means X equals X itself plus X val. If you're wondering how something can be equal to itself plus something else, it's not really equals, it's an assignment operator. We just use the equal sign. It means, I mean, if you've used JavaScript, then you know how it works. I think this is also in JavaScript. Yeah, it's like setting, it sets X equal to itself plus X velocity. So that's all we do, is we're basically telling the computer every frame, reset the background, choose the fill color, draw a circle, and then update the X and Y positions based on the current velocity. And it just does that again and again until, well, forever, really. It just does it. Eventually, it will fly off the screen and we won't be able to see it anymore, but it will still update the values in the background, even though we can't see it. So that's how that works. Yeah, exactly. The old X plus something new. Basically, that's what it is. And let me think. Just give me a sec. Right. So, like, for example, if we get rid of this fill command, which we can do by turning it into a comment, which means the compiler will ignore it. You can see, sorry, not the fill command. If we get rid of the background command, then the problem is it'll just keep drawing the ball over the previous ball, and it will never reset the screen. So you have to, you have to reset it, otherwise it won't work. All right, on to the next thing. So I guess one thing I can do is we'll do the bouncing code. So let's say it gets to a wall and we want it to bounce back, right? So what we can do is add some code to invert the velocities if it reaches a wall. So what we can do, for example, is we'll say if X is greater than, if X is less than 0, or, so this double, I don't know how you say it, this double vertical bar is the or sign. So if X is less than 0 or greater than the width of the window, then X, oh my gosh, how does this thing go? Then X equals X, we can use times equals. So it's the same as plus equals, except instead of adding to the old value, it will multiply. So this will multiply X by -1. And then we can do the same thing for the Y direction. If Y is less than 0 or Y is greater than height, then y times equals -1. And if we run this code, the ball should bounce when it gets to the end of the screen, although we are having some issues. So what are the issues? Probably it's moving too fast. So let's just slow it down so I can explain. So if I move it slowly, all right, that doesn't work. So what the problem is that it gets to the end. Oh, you know what the issue might be? But I'll fix this later anyway. It's for demonstration purposes. Later on, I'll fix this so it doesn't matter which order you put it in. But I think if I just change the order of the code, it might fix it. No, okay. So the problem there is that it gets to the end of the window. Oh, I know what the problem is. Oh my gosh. It's a typo, classic typo. I need to velocity. All right, let's try that again. Let's try that again. All right, so now it'll bounce. So what it's doing is it's checking when it reaches the end of the window, and it is bouncing it back by flipping the velocity. Does that make sense? I'm gonna assume it does. Now there can be issues with this if it depending on if something weird happens and it ends up inside the wall, moving the wrong way and being too far away, it will just keep swapping directions outside of the screen. I mean, in this code that shouldn't happen, but once we start adding collisions and other stuff, then things can go wrong. So if that were the case, I would code it differently. I would be a bit more specific. I would tell it if x is less than 0, then make sure x is positive, x value is positive. If x is greater than 0, change it to a negative, etc. But this will work for the time being. I will change it later if I need to. So, okay. So, next thing is, this is all nice and all, but ideally, I'd like this to look a little more clean. I'd like to have the ability to have multiple balls easily. So what I could do is I could do something like I could turn all of these variables into an array and then index each array separately, or array, I think. Array, I'm not really sure how it's pronounced. I always say array in my head, but I think it's pronounced array. It doesn't really matter. It's where the difference is where the stress is on the syllable. Anyway, what I mean is, that's one way to do it, but it's not the best way. The best way is to create a class and make an object. So what we're going to do is we're going to move all of these variables that we've created, except for the velocity for the time being, I think, except for the radius. We'll keep the radius here. I want to move everything else into a class. So what I'm going to do is create a new class called ball. So I'm just going to write class ball, and then left bracket, right bracket, left curly bracket, right curly bracket, and that will define a new class. And the first thing I'm going to do in my new class is declare my variables. So I'm going to take these and put them here instead. Now, you can keep it like this. You are allowed to just set the value of the variables while you declare them, but it's good practice to leave them undeclared and instead do all your setup and everything, declare everything in your constructor. So what we're going to do later on is we're going to create a ball object. And when we create the ball object, it's going to automatically call this function called ball, which is the constructor. And it's going to set up the values there. And so, for example, if I type in x equals 4, y equals 5, x val equals, I did this wrong. Y val equals 6, then it will set those. But you can also do more interesting things with a constructor. For example, you can pass in arguments so that when you create a ball, you can tell it where you want it and what velocity you want it to have, what speed you want it to have. But we'll get to that later. For the time being, we just want to get a ball class. We want to change this to work with that. And yeah. A class is not a function. A class is a container for bundled data and methods. And a method is like a function. A method is like a function that is attached to a class. A class is like a template that you can make copies of. It's like a blueprint, a design, and then once you have that design, you make instances of it. So it'll make sense in a second. But what I want to do is I want to split this code. I want to take this circle and I want to put this in the draw function or the draw method of the class. So we're going to say void draw. And we're going to copy that in there. And we're also going to want another method, void update. So what update is going to do is it's going to move the ball. It's going to move the ball, and then it's going to do any calculation. Then it's going to check the bounds. And if it's gone out of bounds, if it's hit the wall or hit the side, it's going to reverse the velocity in that particular direction. So we want to put all that code in the update section. So now that we have all that, and we also want to take the fill 0 and also put that in the draw section. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to, as well as declaring our radius, we're also going to declare a ball object. We just normally, without any classes, you can only define objects that are, you can only define variables of the type that are either primitive variables or stuff that comes with Java, or stuff that comes with processing, or something from a library that you download and use. But we've made a custom class now, so we can use it. So now that I've defined class ball, I can create a ball. So I'm going to say ball, and I'm going to call it ball, not very creative. I'm going to declare it, and I'm going to set it equal to new ball. And that's pretty much it. That will create a ball. And then every time we draw, now what we'll do is we'll call ball.update and ball.draw, right? And we'll press play or run and we'll get the same thing. It looks like nothing has changed, and that's because really not much has. But now that we've done this, we can be a lot more creative with how we want to organize this. What if we don't just want one ball, we want a lot of balls? So what we can do is I can make an array. So first things first, I'm going to be more, do what you're supposed to do, and I'm going to assign my ball in the setup. So I'm going to say ball equals new ball. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this from ball of type ball to balls, which is an array of balls, which means it can hold more than one. So I'm going to say we're going to create that. I'm going to say balls equals new ball 50, we'll say. Or we can do it there, or we can do it here. It doesn't matter. So we'll add, that means it's an array of 50 balls. And then what we can do is we will have to populate that list. So at the moment, everything is empty. So there are no balls in that array yet. So we need to fill it with balls. Otherwise, the program will crash. Everything needs to either be all filled, or we'll need some way in the code to check whether there's a ball or not. It's just one of those Java things. When you create new custom objects, when you create new objects that aren't primitive types, they have a value called null. And if you try and access a null variable, it can cause an exception or cause an error. So we're going to do a for loop. Let's just create an int number. We'll set it to 50. Now, since we have it as a variable, instead of hard coding 50, we will write number. So we'll create a new ball with how many of them? Whatever number is. So number is 50, so we'll have 50 balls. Then we'll create a loop. I'll explain the loop if you need me to. Otherwise, maybe you know it from JavaScript. For int I equals 0, I is less than 50, I plus plus. Ball I equals new ball. So, balls I equals new ball. Then, okay. We want to do the same thing here. We'll change this to ball I, ball I, balls I, balls I. And what this should do is loop through each of these. We have 50, but we can't see them yet because they are all on top of each other. So let's change the ball function that creates a new ball to instead give a random value, a random velocity, a random position, and a random velocity. So we want a random position, random x between 0 and width, and we want a random y between 0 and height. And so Java has an inbuilt math.random function, which generates a value between 0 and 1, inclusive on 1. So inclusive on 0, not including 1, including 0, not including 1. So what I can do is I can do math.random times width, type mismatch, double does not match with float. Okay. So apparently math.random is actually a double variable, not a float variable. That means it's a double precision floating point number, not a single precision. That just means it's more precise than float. So to make it happy, I'm going to change all of these from float to double. And that really shouldn't change much, but it does make it more precise, so it's better. We're going to do math.random times width, and we're going to do math.random times height. So this will randomize the positions of the balls. Right, okay. Well, apparently the random wants doubles, but the circle draw function wants floats. So let me just look and see how I solved this problem last time, just to make sure. Okay, last time I just cast them to floats. So yeah. What I'm going to do is do this little trick where if you have a variable of some type, like a floating point or a double, and you want to change it to another type, you can do something like this. You can write float in front of it in these brackets, and that will do the trick. It's a little weird sometimes. It has priority over other operators, so be careful when using it. Sometimes you'll need to put brackets around things so that it works the way you want it to. But in this case, it's pretty simple. It's just changing a double float. It's changing a double precision floating point number to a single precision floating point number just for drawing purposes. It's not changing the actual underlying data. It's only changing it to feed it to the circle function. So now that should work. So now we have a lot of circles or a lot of balls, but they're all moving in the same direction. So we also want to randomize the velocity. So we want random between, let's say, -4 and 4. So the way we can do this is we know that if we want to, what we can do is we'll start with -4 and we'll add math dot random times 8. So math.random will generate a random number between 0 and 1. When it's 0, this will evaluate to -4. When it's 1, it will be -4 plus 8, which will give 4. And any number in between will give a number between -4 and 4. So that's one way we can get the numbers that we are after. So there we go. So now they should have random velocities, and they're actually kind of slow, honestly, compared to my last program. What speed did I have them at last time? Last time I had it at 10. Why am I casting it to a double? Oh, weird. Okay. Anyway, so that works for me. Yeah, one thing I did differently in this original project is I dream projects, new project is I, instead of defining everything inside of the ball constructor function, I have these dummy variables, these underscore variables that I can pass into the function, and then in the actual method I just set x equals underscore x, y equals underscore y, val x equals underscore val x, val y equals underscore val y, etc. etc. And so that just means when I create the variable, I can choose the values there. So this is useful if you want to have customization over how you create an object, and you are creating it from multiple different parts of your code. You can pass in different values, and that can be useful. In this case, it doesn't really matter because we're only doing it once. We're only, making the balls once, and we're doing the same function on all of them. But it's good practice to do it the other way. But for the time being, since we've only got doing this for the time being, I will just keep it like this for now, and maybe we'll change it later. So at the moment, we got a lot of balls, and the next thing we want to do is we can do a lot of things. One interesting thing we can do is give them gravity. So if I change the update function to not only change the x and y velocity, change the x and y values, but also change the velocity itself over time, then that will essentially act as gravity. So if I say y minus equals 1, sorry, if I say y vel minus equals 1, that will change the y velocity over time. Hang on, we got an issue. I should have number in both. And we've got another error. Array index, this should also be number. All right, that should be all the errors taken care of. Okay, I did make a mistake. I made them bounce. I made them fall upwards because in processing, the coordinates start at the top left and they go to the right and down. So I actually need gravity. I actually need this to be a positive number. And I think it also might be a bit strong. But there you go. There's some bouncing balls. I'm going to make it a bit weaker, maybe like 0.1. That's kind of like moon gravity there. Maybe a bit stronger. 0.2, 0.4. There we go. That's sort of reasonable. So here you can see one of the issues that I was talking about. You can see some of the balls are escaping up the top. I don't know if you saw that, but one of these balls, I think they're getting more energy over time, so that's another thing we can fix as well. But you can see it's sort of it's a bit buggy. We'll need to fix that. So how can okay. I don't know. I guess you can just leave a comment on the video. And I'll get back to you, I guess. Do you want to email me? I'm not. I mean, I didn't expect to tutor someone, but I guess I have time. I'll have to think about it, I guess. I mean, if you just want to ask questions and stuff, then just post a comment on the video, and I'll answer any questions you put there, I guess. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Alrighty. See you then. Have a good day. All right. So anyway, as I was saying, well, honestly, like, right. So let's move on. So we've got some gravity. There we go. And it's a bit buggy at the moment. The balls are gaining speed over time. So, we want to try and fix that. If we maybe we could try changing the velocity before we update the values. Maybe that will work. And it seems okay. But then if you watch closely, you'll realize that the balls are actually losing energy over time. And then eventually they end up sinking into the floor. So it's not quite right, you know? It's taking a while for some of these to lose energy. It's actually pretty good it actually looks pretty good in terms of like, you know, a real ball, how a real ball would lose energy. Well, not that one. That one looked a bit weird. But it's not really what we want. We want to conserve energy. So what if we split the difference and we do half and half, add half before, half after, and and they shouldn't gain or lose any energy. Now, the reason why this happens is a little technical. It's got to do with, area under the curve and integrals and whatnot. There's a whole video about it, but really, I can just describe it in very simply in Paint. Well, actually, I don't really need to, because I think this is a pretty simple version. Basically, it's the order in which we do things. If we update the velocity first and then move it and then bounce, then what will happen is on the next frame, it'll be moving upwards with that velocity. Then we'll subtract and we'll get rid of some of that velocity. And that means it will now have less speed than it did before going up than it did going down. And we don't really want that. On the other hand, if we update the velocity and if we update the position and then the velocity, it will have, it might have like, say, some negative speed, like say -4 speed going down. And then we increase the, we do the gravity. Now it has, negative 4 point, if it has, if it moves, then changes the speed, and then reverses, it essentially converts that downward force of gravity into extra upward momentum. So the problem is it's gaining speed every time it bounces if we do that. So we want to split the difference. If we put if we do half of the update, if we give it half of the gravity before it updates and half of the gravity after it updates, those two effects cancel out. More technically, if we just open up Paint, it's about the integral, the area under the curve, right? So let's say we have, let's say the velocity is 4 one frame and a bit larger than 4 in the next frame, Let's say we got, oh my gosh. Impact, sure. Let's say we got, let's say we have a velocity of 4 and then in the next frame, it goes to 4.4 or something, right? Or -4 or whatever, some other value. Then the total distance it needs to move should be the average of these two. If you can imagine, because But what happens is if we... No, this isn't right. Let me think. If you think about what's happening during the frame, so during one frame, the ball is supposed to bounce. It starts off with a velocity of -4, and then it bounces and it needs to have a velocity of +4. And there's also gravity involved. Now, okay, you know what? I just realized this is actually a bad example. There's a much better example I could do this for. Right? I don't actually need to do this diagram this time. There are other things. I think there's a much better video about it on YouTube about frame rates. That video is much better than any explanation that I can give. So I would actually recommend that YouTube video instead. I believe it would be, what's it called? Delta time this mistake video game, something like that. There you go. Dear game developers, stop messing this up. This video goes into detail about, changing the area under the curve and all that. This part here, and it talks about how, you have one variable, one position, and you can, if you move before you update, you end up with you end up with the old velocity. You have too little. If you do it afterwards, you have too much. Yeah, too little, too much, just right. And it turns out that the area under is exactly equal to the average of between the two. So if you just do it once before and once after halfway, it's mathematically equivalent to just taking the average of the two speeds. So yeah, it's pretty much it. Anyway, so now that we've got gravity, the next step is collisions. So to do a collision, okay, to do collisions, there's quite a bit of maths involved, and honestly, I might just call it for today. I mean, unless someone else joins, I think probably good to just call it for the day. But that's okay. I'm really happy that I did this. I'm really happy that I at least got the balls. So next stream, it turns out maybe I think I'm going to take a break from the coding for the time being and play a game instead, or do something else. But we've done a lot. We've got the balls bouncing. Next time round, we'll focus on getting the balls to collide with each other. There'll be a bit of maths involved, a bit of physics. But hopefully that should be all good. All right. Thank you everyone for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, I don't know how to do chapters or whatnot. Maybe I'll add manual chapter select. Maybe YouTube will do an automatic one. I'm not sure. But yeah, you can obviously just skip the beginning of me ranting and I guess I'll do a part 2 eventually, part 2 soon, hopefully. All right. So yeah, unless anyone else comes, I think that'll be it for the day. I'm glad I could help just one person. So thank you so much. Thank you to Rocket's Heart for watching, and thank you to anyone else who watches this video in the future. It means so much to me, more than you know. Thank you so much. I'm just glad I could help someone with coding. Alrighty. Thanks for watching. My name is James Ryan, and I'll see you next time.